What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. This is Jace Christensen. Most of you are all going to know me. I'm a student at Ameritech College of Healthcare in my final semester of nursing school for my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. Going to go ahead today. I've prepared a small presentation that's focused on the QSEN initiatives for nursing, why those are important. Just going to dive into them a little bit and focus on each of them briefly, share my own experiences regarding each of those policies. I decided myself to opt out. I'm not going to do a PowerPoint. I feel like PowerPoints are helpful for me sometimes, but for this specifically, I just feel like if I would have been reading everything just off the PowerPoint, if I had a PowerPoint pulled up. I'm going to try to base more of my presentation off of my personal experiences working in a hospital. Although I don't technically have the nursing experience yet, I've been working in an environment directly with nurses and nursing staff for the past 4 years or so. So I'm going to try to base most of my content from experiences I've had there. This is going to be on the QSEN. We're going to go through each of the 6 topics just briefly and discuss why each one is important. I've got my laptop pulled up here for a couple references and then just my notes in front of me to make sure I don't sidetrack too much. And this will be weird. I don't like recording myself. I think everybody's the same way. I don't even think I'll watch this when I'm done. I'm just going to try to treat it as if this was like an interview of some sort. So here goes nothing. The first part of QSEN focuses on the importance of communication and teamwork within nursing. I'm going to go ahead and say that I think communication in itself is probably one of the most important aspects of working in healthcare and in working, especially in nursing. It's something you have to be comfortable with asking for help. I don't care how independent you are as a nurse, you're going to have lots of opportunities to seek help and get assistance from other people. You're going to need to learn how to be humble, ask for help from those around you, from other nurses, from the doctors. You need to be a good communicator. You're going to need to learn how to delegate, because more than likely you're going to have too many things on your plate at one time. You need to learn how to delegate efficiently so that you can handle all those tasks and get everything done. I do think there's different leadership styles that, to me, go hand in hand with communication. And not a single one of them is the outright correct answer. I think you need to be comfortable with each of them because you'll use them at different points in your nursing career. I think the democratic style is really important as far as communication goes, getting feedback from everybody on the team and then moving forward with an answer. But there's going to be times in code scenarios and things like that where decisions have to be made immediately. And in that point, you need to be comfortable. You might be the one that's giving strict instructions and decisions. You need to be comfortable doing that if it comes down to you. I do think, based on my experience, that your communication skills will make or break a lot of your reputation as a nurse or just anybody in healthcare. The way you're able to communicate, not only with nursing staff, but with patients as well. I had an experience as the tech on my unit just within the last couple of years where we had a patient that was delirious. They were getting agitated. They had a 1-to-1, but they still were refusing care. They were trying to leave the hospital AMA. I went down and talked to him. It was a good experience for me because just based on my communication with the patient, we didn't have to get security involved or anything. Strictly through communication, calm communication, we were able to calm the patient down and get him back. The last thing I was going to touch on communication, I do think that closed loop communication is something important that you need to learn in nursing. For example, when I'm at work and we're going to give a patient a blood transfusion, you've got to be able to read back the numbers to each other when you're doing a double check. You can't just have the number read and say, good, that's great. You got to read it back so that both of you are on the same page. The next part of QSEN is the emphasis on patient and family-centered care. This one I feel like is pretty self-explanatory. The patient always has to be the top priority in their safety. That includes their own safety, but it also includes respecting their personal preferences, their space, and their decisions. You have to be able to do those things. You are gonna, no matter where you work in nursing, you're gonna have a lot of different patients from every different background, and you've got to be comfortable setting your own bias aside and working with them, respecting their own cultural, religious, personal preferences. That's something that, if you're not willing to do that, it's going to get in the way of you being a successful nurse. And then the only other thing I touch on as far as family-centered care, just make sure to always involve the family, make that a priority as well. I just have seen working in the hospital, that's one of the most rewarding parts that I've had working in healthcare in a small role, is you can definitely tell when you involve the family, you develop a relationship with them, and you get great feedback from them. One of the most rewarding things that I think you can experience when it comes to patient care. Moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about evidence-based practice, which is the next emphasis for the QSE initiatives. Evidence-based practice to me means that there were two words that came to mind when I was thinking about this. From a nursing perspective, it means that you need to have flexibility and adaptability. Change is the only thing that's constant. Everything in the world is always changing all the time, from a societal standpoint, personal, social, everything is always changing. And that's something that's hard to deal with, but we have to be comfortable with it. And that's true for healthcare as well. Things are not always going to be the same way that you were taught. You need to make it a priority as a nurse. All of us need to make it priorities to make an effort to stay educated on the changes that are going on in healthcare, and being comfortable with those policies and procedures, and knowing why they're happening and being able to implement them with patient care. One of the examples, I just wrote about it like this last week, so this may be beating a dead horse here, but like the best example I had in my personal life, recent experience, was last year with the COVID pandemic. Think about how much has changed with COVID in regards to vaccines and masks. We don't need to talk about it, but there's so much change that's happened. And just an example is like last year in March, April, during the COVID outbreak, like me and a couple coworkers had started wearing masks at work, and our manager had told us that day, don't want you wearing that mask. We've been told to keep those and preserve them for the people that actually need them, blah, blah, blah. And I respected that decision. And then the very next day, the leadership from Intermountain sent an email mandating masks for all, clinical employees and providers. And so that's just an example. I mean, day to day, things are going to change all the time. We have to be sure as nurses that we stay updated with the times and follow the evidence, follow the science in regards to providing safe care. The next one we're going to touch on real quick is quality improvement. Quality improvement, there's a process that needs to be followed in regards to making positive changes that are going to be keeping patients safer, which is the top priority. It involves, you need to identify the problem, what happened or what's happening that's going wrong, and then talk about solutions, how we can overcome those, and then start to enroll some trials, get the results from those, go off and feedback. If it went well, you can move forward with it. If not, you need to keep altering it, just like the scientific method, until you can get progress. I know in my own unit at the hospital where we work, we've done this. We've done a lot of quality improvement in regards to a couple things. The first one is patient falls. On an orthopedic floor, it happens. We hate it when it happens, but it does. We're always constantly seeking better ways so we can make improvements there. What can we do? Can we leave the bed alarm on? Can we do hourly rounding? We're always trying to be one step ahead to get better and to keep the patient safe. And the same thing in regards to patient interaction and patient satisfaction. Our unit was having some lower scores than we wanted. So they implemented this thing, they called it commit to sit, where the nursing staff, you try to commit just at least 10 to 15 minutes a shift where you can sit with the patient and their family, just get to know them, get personal with them, not talking about clinical stuff. And they enrolled that and saw that that helped. It was helping our patient score, so they kept it going. And so quality improvement's tough. I think it's a tough process. because progress, I think, is an uncomfortable thing, but it's something that everybody has to be introspective that way if we want to be able to learn and grow. Like I grew up playing sports, and of course my sports brain, like that's what it made me think of is like when you're in a sports team, you have a bad game or whatever, it stinks, but if you want to get better, you have to be willing to go back and watch your film and see what went wrong and how can you improve it going forward. So moving on, we're going to informatics. Something that my nursing manager has always told us in regards to charting and information technology is that if it wasn't charted, it wasn't done. We need to be comfortable charting everything and being familiar with the charting process. Charting can feel like a nuisance, but it's going to be your best friend. If there's ever a discrepancy or anything, or a doubt in regards to patient care, they're going to go back to the charting. If you have good charting habits, you know the patient was well taken care of and safe. If you're not charting things, that can come back to hurt you personally, but also professionally. You could get in trouble for not having good habits. Going into the future, there's going to be telehealth and translation vitals. We need to be comfortable with technology in healthcare and embrace it. And then the last one, this is the most important one in my opinion. It's kind of the entire emphasis of nursing in general, is patient safety. I'm gonna read, I have a couple statistics pulled up here from a research article. For example, it says that each year in the United States alone, 7,000 to 9,000 people die due to medication error every year. And on top of that, the total cost of looking after patients with medication-associated errors exceeds $40 billion each year. $40 billion. Imagine what we could do with that money if we weren't making medication errors. I'm running out of time here, so I'm trying to get through this. I think, from my experience, like the number one tip I have, low battery. Number one tip I have is to take your time no matter what, regardless. Don't force yourself through something if you're not comfortable with the order or the medication that's being given. I'm doing a nurse apprenticeship right now on my unit as I transition into full-time, independent nursing. And it's taken me a long time because in our program, they emphasize so much, the process of the 6 rights. We have to check everything. Is this the right patient, the right time, the right drug, and the right route, et cetera, et cetera. When in reality, in a hospital, it's a lot more streamlined. You have the patient bracelet, you've got a scanner, and you have the drugs that have a scanner. And so you just scan everything in, all of a sudden the IV just starts going itself. And it's been a learning process for me because the nurses that have been there for a while are like, can check it real fast and be like, oh, it's great. See, like the software is green, the IV's going, so we're good. And I have to sit there and be like, wait, like I need to double check to make sure this is the right rate, everything. So just be safe and have the courage to make the right decision, even if you're getting adversity from the doctor, things like that. Sometimes doctors have strong personalities. Because this research article also said that over 50% of the med errors that have happened typically come from the prescribing side. It was something the doctor put it wrong. No disrespect to doctors. That's just what's happens the most. So if you catch something, you need to have the courage, like I said, to reach out to the doctor and say, this isn't right. We got to keep the patient safe. And so in conclusion, I think that the QSEN initiatives are important for all nurses going forward. And I think the most important thing is that they emphasize patient safety. I think above everything and beyond that we've learned in this program and this semester and everything, our job as nurses is to help patients stay healthy, to heal, and to keep them safe. And if we as nurses can keep these 6 things in mind going forward, don't have to memorize them exactly, but just a general idea of those things about following evidence-based practice, patient safety, communication especially, that's going to help us be happy and successful nurses. And it's going to give you a good reputation as a nurse and a lot of confidence because you're going to be doing things the right way that are keeping your patients safe. And that's the thing that we need to be focusing most on as nurses. Thanks.